Okay, welcome. So this is an interesting polyp. You can see it right in the center of the screen. We go up to it a little bit and then get a closer. So let's just think about analyzing it. So it has, a very punched out appearance. It's very clear. There's a little bit of potentially chicken skin mucosa around it. Maybe there's a little depression in the center, and it's most certainly is a little more red in the center than around the outside. There's also this kind of feeling maybe that there is a demarcation line right around the edge of this polyp. So as we go closer, we can use, there's by the way a nice view of the chicken skin mucosa on the edge of this polyp. And then as we go closer, we can nicely in white light firstly see that demarcation line here. And then if we go for narrowband or virtual chromendoscopy or BLI, as we are in this case, or eye scan if we're talking about Pentax, then in this case BLI beautifully shows us that demarcation line. So if we just freeze it before we use water, you can see really beautifully that on this Fujifilm 760Z colonoscope, we have got great resolution to see the difference between what on the 5 o'clock of the image is normal polyp, and in the center of the image is disordered vascular pattern under BLI. And of course it would be nice, wouldn't it, to be able to see closer to that. There's a couple of techniques you can use for that. The first technique is to get a nice overview. You can clearly see the whole demarcation zone here. But then as you come closer, then we can see beautifully here the demarcation line, and then we can get even closer. But one of the problems is that you need a cap or you need water, because this is a nice view, but to get more information from this image and to get closer, we need to freeze the focal length. And that immobilizes the distance between the endoscope lens and the polyp. And so this is all right. I can actually do this quite nicely here using the cap. But if you want to do it better, that natural magnification effect and the floating effect of water or saline really helps with this. So, and you really want to try not to traumatize it. So you can see that as it comes towards me, I lose the beautiful image. It's moving around a little bit. And when we go in further, even more, to maximize the zoom functionality of this endoscope, we cannot easily keep the focal length, or I can't in this situation. And this is actually relatively stable, but you may want to become more stable. And so, for example, we may want to interrogate this area here, which may be a previous biopsy site of this lesion. And so we can get a nice freeze frame, but maybe we can do better. And I just asked my assistant to make sure the pump is not very strong. I don't know how strong the pump is on, but it would be better that it was not very strong. Then we can suction a bit of the gas out of here, and then maybe you can add water. And you can immediately already see the underwater effect. So it makes, when it's going in, obviously the thing is moving, but then when we stop the water pressure, potentially it's going to give us that natural magnification, but it's also probably going to let us see better contrast between that demarcation line and the edge, for example, like this. So already on 2 levels of zoom, and then here again we can beautifully visualize this edge the whole way around. It wasn't easy to see the bottom before, but if we use water pressure to just bring it into focus, then you can really also nicely see that area. Push it away with the water pedal, let it come in, pause it, etc. So water really does add to our ability to visualize this lesion, I think. And here on the edge as well, if you want to freeze it, then we can get some very nice resolution. And then when we go directly in, so now we're at the maximum resolution, you can see what sort of images you can get here. And so what I think is very important is to be able to describe these patterns, not in terms of, okay, this is a JNet X, Sano Y, Hiroshima A pattern, but whether this pattern is completely disordered or whether it is in between regular and completely disordered, so regularly irregular. And I think that that's what I'm seeing here. That combined with the slight depression makes you pretty concerned that this lesion is one, invasive cancer, and that there is a chance that this lesion is deeply invasive. So at that point, we want to remove it with a technique which is going to give us proper depth assessment. And I think in this case, it would be quite difficult to remove this with ESD. Definitely not impossible. You can also see that fold is a little deformed there. But much better approach would be to remove it with full thickness. So let's take the marking probe to start marking this for full thickness. And we'll show you the technique of removing this lesion en bloc. And in this case, because we are in the transverse colon, we can remove this lesion en bloc with the full thickness resection device. The only possibility is that this device does not pass the sigmoid. In elderly people and those with comorbidity, often they have associated diverticular disease or stricturing of the sigmoid colon. This can be a downside of this device, and if it doesn't work, soft coagulation please, if it doesn't work, passing, and we will of course try it with the proof cap or the cap of the device, which lets you test whether you can pass first. If we cannot pass, then we will obviously not open the device, which is relatively expensive, and we will use another technique, such as ESD. Okay, so here we're going to go with the mark. I'm using soft coagulation. These marks are just so you can see what you've got in your cap. Well, maybe it's not totally clear to you. So you see there's quite a bit of hidden mucosa under here. I don't want to really mark there because that's not the edge of the lesion. So I'm going to go in here. Maybe it's easier to mark that with water. I'll show you that in a second. Let's get out of BLI and go into standard light. Marking off the lesion there at the back. Left side. It's kind of presented itself a bit better to me here, so maybe I can do this. And this. Okay, and then finally this back edge will not be easy to mark here because of the, everything to do with this polyp really. So I'm going to have to slightly blindly mark it down here. And maybe we can mark it with water. So let's just see if that's possible. Soft coagulation does work underwater, but you may need to play with the settings. So you can see already nicely that that mark I put before did work at the back there. Take the air pocket away. And you can see how that does allow access to the back. There's already a mark here. It'll also be interesting to mark there and there. I don't think you can have too many marks, to be honest. Okay. So I think we marked it, so now we'll take the scope out, pause the video a little bit, and let you back in when we have the device on. Yeah.